City of Neon, 2077. The sky at night was split into pieces by countless holographic advertisements and virtual idol projections, and the dazzling blue-purple light shone on the skyscraper that was filled with clouds, like the ever-closing eye-catching eyes. On the street, the air was filled with the smell of data flowing through the nose. The pedestrians were in a hurry, and the implanted wafers behind their brains were shining with a glimmer of light, like slaves tied by invisible chains. Yaokun squatted in a corner of the dark alley, his old black hoodie covering half of his face, holding a self-made quantum decoder in his hand, a metal device the size of a palm, which was worn and damaged. It was his most proud work. He lowered his head and glanced at the virtual screen on his wrist, and a string of green codes were dancing on the screen, like a living cyst crawling. "Old man, where are you?" Yaokun muttered in a low voice, with a burst of fatigue and reluctance in his voice. His father missed the data after an digital eternal life upload 3 years ago. Officially, it was a data collapse, but Yaokun never believed this ghost. It took him 3 years to dive into one underground black market after another, trying to find any trace. Tonight, he locked an underground data trading market called Dark Net Deep and said that there was a confidential file of the technology giant Tianwang Group. If anything can point to the whereabouts of the father, it must be here. Yaokun, there's not much time left. The headphones conveyed a low voice, carrying a tight slight sound. I just used data to scan, and there was an unusual data flow around it. Maybe it was the monitoring network of the internet that was retracting. You only had 10 minutes. It's been 10 minutes. Yaokun grinned, with a flash of confidence in his eyes. He quickly tapped the quantum decoders with his fingers, and the code flowed faster on the screen, like a torrent controlled by him, storming the firewall of the black market. In the deep alley, hidden data points emit low birds, like the low growl of wild animals. Yaokun knew that the firewall here was not an ordinary color, and the core system of Tianwang might be connected to the back. But he was never afraid of challenge. His quantum decoders, able to crack any digital wall slug, was his trump card and his belief. The first layer of defense, break. As he whispered, a line of prompts suddenly popped up on the screen, confirm usage rights. Yaokun slapped the corner of his mouth and quickly penetrated into the core database of the black market. No file names flashed before his eyes, like a scene of data storm. He skillfully filtered the keywords: digital immortality, ideological upload, experimental object. Suddenly, an encrypted file came into view, and the title was Project Eternal Experience List. Yaokun's heart beat faster, and his fingers almost trembled and clicked to download. Just when the file progress reached 50%, Xinyue came from the headphones and shouted quickly, "Yaokun, withdraw. Tianwang's tracker has locked you. The virtual killer is approaching. Give me another 30 seconds. Yaokun gritted his teeth and stared at the progress bar. He knew that the virtual killer was a digital weapon used by Tianwang to clear his own evil spirits. It was invisible and incompetent, and could directly destroy a person's brain by implanting a chip. It's not that he hasn't seen those who have been cleared, the eyes are empty, as if the soul has been pulled away. 20 seconds, Yaokun. Don't force me to rush over and drag you. Xinyue's voice almost roared, obviously his data had seen a certain dangerous future. Just as the progress bar reached 100%, a dazzling red light suddenly lit up in the dark alley behind Yaokun. An image of a virtual projection killer appeared before his eyes. His body consisted of a stream of red data, holding a digital knife in his hand, and his empty eyes stared straight at Yaokun. I found you, invader. The killer's voice seemed to be coming from the ground, mechanically and cold. Yaokun quickly pulled out the decoder and turned around and ran away. The garbage and scrap machinery in the alley were hit by him and he was hit by him. The virtual killer chases him tightly and never lets go. Every time the knife slams, it will tear a number of cracks in the air, as if it can be cut. Xinyue, position. Yaokun gasped and ran and shouted. Turn left, in the third alley, there is a deserted holographic billboard, hide it. Xinyue's voice was quick and clear, I have blacked out the nearby monitoring and will fight you for 5 minutes. Yaokun turned suddenly and almost slid into the narrow alley. Behind the scrap billboard is an old hidden space filled with wires and waste wires. He curled up inside, held his breath, and heard the flow of virtual killers sweeping across the alley and moving away. "It's safe, it's a while." Chingzei's voice came from the headphones, bringing a sense of relief. "Your mother is almost dead, do you know?" "I know, but I got something." Yaokun said in a low voice, took out the decoder, and the downloaded file was displayed on the screen. "Yaokun, are you looking for the truth, right?" Yaokun raised his head suddenly, and through the gaps on the billboard, he saw a holographic projection, a girl in a white virtual dress with long hair like a waterfall, and her smile was warm and mysterious. "She is Xinyue, the reddest virtual idol in Neon City, and the spiritual consent of countless people." At this moment, her holographic projection appeared in this broken dark alley, which was unusual. "How do you know my name?" Yaokun's eyebrows and his hand was pressed on the codec understander, ready to counterattack at any time. "I know a lot of things, including what you are looking for." Xinyue's voice was soft and powerful, as if it could penetrate the heart. "I am not a puppet of Tianwang, I am the spokesperson of resistance. Behind the digital immortality, there is a slander that you can't imagine." Yaokun was stunned for a moment, and there was no guesswork in his brain. He asked in a low voice, "What do you want to say?" "I can help you, but you must trust me." Xinqing's projection approached a little, with a flash of determination in her eyes. "The file in your hand is just the tip of the iceberg. The real secret of Tianwang is hidden in a core data section, located in the scrap factory area in the north of the city. I can give you a tag, but you have to answer me, and after finding the truth, help us destroy Tianwang's control system." Yaokun was silent for a few seconds, and quickly weighed the pros and cons in his brain. Finally, he pointed, "Okay, deal. But I have a condition. Tell me, is my father still alive?" Xinqing's smile was slightly stiff, but soon recovered. "I can't tell, but if you can get to that date, you may find the answer." She slapped her hands lightly and sent a string of data to Yaokun's decoder. Then, her projection began to blur, as if it was about to dissipate. "Be careful, Tianwang's eyes are gone. We will meet again." The projection disappeared completely, and the dark alley returned to silence. Yaokun looked down at the coordinates on the decoder, his eyes chaotic. He knew that this road would only become more and more dangerous, but he had no choice. "Yaokun, are you okay?" Chingzei's voice sounded again, with a grudge. "What's going on with the data wave just now? I saw an unusual signal, like a virtual idol." "Say, long time." Yaokun stood up and patted the dust on his body, "But I have a new goal. The abandoned factory area in the north of the city. Are you here?" "Blank, of course." Chingze said unhappily, "But you have to tell me first, who is that projection just now? Also, what is in the file you got?" Yaokun smiled and did not answer directly, but opened the file. On the screen, a string of names came into view, and one of them made his pupils suddenly shrink. Yao Mingcheng, his father. "Chingze, be prepared." Yaokun's voice was low and firm. "This game just began. As far as the dark alley is concerned, the neon lights are illuminated, like soundless predictions. The shadow of the Skynet covers the entire city, and Yaokun holds the file he just picked and the seat tag he gave him, and a fire ignited in his heart. He knew that what awaited him next would be a bigger storm. The number of words in this chapter, about 3,800 words. The edge of the Neon City is a forgotten ruin. The once-in commercial area is now left with broken reinforced concrete and raw mechanical slaughter. The electromagnetic remains in the air are filled with the center of the scrap data, like a ghost of a vernacular. In the deserted factory area in the north of the city, the night is getting thicker, and the neon lights far away are barely outlining the silhouette of the building, like a monster with a huge mouth, waiting to devour everything that enters. Yaokun and Chingze squatted behind a pile of waste irons outside the center of the scrap data, and the figures of the two almost melted into the darkness. Yaokun checked the quantum decoder with his head low, and the green code that jumped on the screen made his face look a little white. Xinyue was wearing a modified pair of enhanced real lenses, and a data flow flashed through his pupils, which seemed to be scanning the surrounding environment with data prediction. The coordinates are okay. This is the data point that Xinyue said. Yaokun said softly, tapping the decoder with his fingers to try to access the faint signal nearby, but I have a bad feeling. This place is too quiet. Your premonition has never been accurate. Xinyue hummed, and the data flow on the lens suddenly stopped, and his expression became solemn. Wait, there is an unusual wave. In the southeast, the data flow rate exceeds the normal value by 50%, which is a high-risk signal. Yaokun, we are targeted. Yaokun's eyebrows quickly adjusts the scanning mode of the decoder. Sure enough, a red warning mark appeared on the screen, approaching like a blood spot. Digital dog, he lowered his spell. Tianwang's reaction was faster than I thought. This old guy, Mingxi, is indeed not simple. Digital dog is a digital weapon designed by the Skynet group to track down weapons, which is more vicious than virtual killers. They exist as data manifolds and can teleport through any network node. After locking the target, it will directly destroy the other party's implanted chip, and even cause real brain damage. Yaokun and Xinyue both saw the person who was bited to death by the dog. The empty eyes seemed to have their souls been drained. Don't waste, go in or withdraw. Xinyue's low voice, his hand pressed on the self-made electromagnetic gun at his waist. This thing was made by him using scrapped parts, which has a certain interference effect on digital dogs, but the effect is limited. In. Yaokun looked calm without hesitation. There's my dad's name in the file, and I can't waste it halfway. The data points Xinyue said are inside, and he may find more traces. Xinyue sighed and said, okay, but I heard me and prepare to run anytime. I don't want to become a scumbag. The two quickly dived into the scrap data center. The iron door at the entrance has long been rotten, and it makes a harsh squeak with a light push. There was darkness inside, only a few indicator lights left by old servers flashed with faint red lights, like dying eyes. The air is filled with the smell of burnt wires, and the foot is filled with broken circuit boards. When you step on it, you will make a crisp sound, making people creepy. Yaokun turns on the night view mode of the decoder, and a path to the depth of the center is displayed on the screen. He said in a low voice, the core database should be at the bottom, and the firewall is definitely not simple. I need time to crack it, so you can keep an eye on it. Don't worry, leave it to me. Xinyue pushed the lens. The ability of data prediction allowed him to sense danger a few seconds in advance. Although this ability has time effectiveness limitations, it can always help his life at any time. They went deeper along the broken corridor, and the air became more and more stressed, as if an invisible pressure was pressing the nerves. Suddenly, Xinyue stopped suddenly and shouted in a low voice, stop. There is a trap in front of you, and the data current has abnormal fluctuations. Yaokun immediately squatted down, and the decoder scanned to the ground in front. There was a set of electromagnetic inductors hidden under the ground. As long as it touched, an alarm would be issued. He quickly took out a scrap chip from his backpack and threw it over. As the wafer just touched the ground, a sharp current sound came from the air, and a blue arc instantly burned the wafer into gray. It's great that you are. Yaokun wiped his sweat and walked over the trap from the side, or I'll be barbecue now. Stop talking, hurry up. Xinyue urged, but his expression became more and more intense. The danger I expected was getting closer and closer, and the digital dog might have locked us. Sure enough, the voice fell, and a deep electron roared from the center of the data, like a wild beast roaring. Yaokun and Xinyue looked at each other and realized that the key dog was coming. Run! Xinyue growled, and the two of them rushed towards the corridor. In the darkness behind me, 3 dogs composed of red data flows gradually appeared, and the sharp data minions tore out sparks in the air, which was amazingly fast. Yaokun runs the decoder and tries to interfere with the dog's tracking signal, but the effect is very little. Xinyue looked back and gritted his teeth and said, Yaokun, don't worry, run away with it. I'll delay. After saying that, he pulled out the electromagnetic gun from his waist and pressed the puller against the nearest dog. A blue current shot out, hitting the core of the dog. The data current was in a state of chaos, and the dog's body collapsed in a short and sharp scream. But this was delayed for only a few seconds, and the other two dogs were approaching, and the minions almost touched Chengzai's back. "Chengzai!" Yaokun shouted, stopped his pace, and quickly adjusted a hidden program of the decoder. This is his recently developed quantum overload function, which can allow the decoder to explode with supercomputing power in a short period of time, but the price may destroy the core module. He didn't have time to hesitate and pressed the start button hard. The decoder emits low birds, and the code flow rate on the screen is so fast that it is almost impossible to see clearly. An invisible data slammed out from Yaokun's hands, instantly rolling into the entire corridor. The two approaching dogs were hit by the impact wave, and the data body directly disintegrated and turned into a pile of insequential digital fragments, scattered in the air. "It's done!" Yaokun gasped, but his face was not very good-looking. The core temperature of the decoder has reached the limit value, and a warning pops up on the screen. "The module is too hot, it is recommended to cool down." Chengzai ran back to him and said in amazement, "What did your mother just use? Can this thing blow up the dog directly?" "New tricks, but they can't be used frequently." Yaokun smiled bitterly and patted the decoder. "If you use this again, you may be able to report it in the end. Don't worry about this first, the dog that I broke up was reorganizing just now. We have to tighten the database." Chengzai pulled Yaokun and continued to run deeper. After a few minutes, they finally arrived at the base of the data center. A huge old server stands in the center, with a surface covered with dust and circuit burns. A circle of blue energy shields is surrounded by rings, which is obviously a concrete shape of the firewall. Yaokun squatted in front of the server, quickly connected to the decoder, and began to crack the shield. His fingers danced on the virtual keyboard, and the codes were rolling like flowing water, colliding violently with the shield's data, emitting airfire sparks. "Yaokun, hurry up, I feel like something is approaching again." Chengzai stood aside and looked around tightly. His data was discovered again and a red warning signal flashed through his brain. "Give me another minute." Yaokun gritted his teeth, and his sweat slipped over the head. He suddenly flashed his soul and switched the decoder's computing mode to quantum mapping. This is a new skill he learned from the past just now. It can simulate the vulnerability structure of the firewall and conduct accurate attacks. With a crisp drop sound, the blue shield disintegrated and the server core was exposed to them. Yaokun quickly connected, and no files popped up on the screen. One of the titles made his pupils suddenly shrink: Project Eternal Identity Energy Transformation Experience. "What a ghost thing is this?" Yaokun muttered in a low voice and clicked on the file. A secret plan of the Tianwan group was recorded. They used human consciousness uploaded to the cloud as energy to drive the entire Neon City's transportation system. Those who wish to perform digital eternal life do not receive eternal life at all, but are regarded as batteries. "Yaokun, we have no time." Chengzai suddenly shouted, interrupting his thoughts. The electronic roars inside the data center again, and the three digital dogs reconverge in form, approaching from different directions, with the data minions flashing with deadly light. "Download is completed, withdraw." Yaokun pulled out the decoder and rushed to the exit with Chengzai. But the dog was too fast and almost blocked all retreats. Chengzai gritted his teeth, took out the last electromagnetic bullet and threw it over. The explosion of current temporarily blocked the dog, but the other two had already been swept away. At this moment, a cold female voice came from the darkness. "It seems you need help." Yaokun and Chengzai suddenly turned around, and only saw a woman wearing a tight black body walking out of the shadow, wearing a high-tech mask on her face, covering most of her face. She held a small device in her hand, pressed it lightly, and an invisible wave spread out, and the figures of the two digital dogs instantly froze, as if they were being scattered. "Who are you?" Yaokun asked vigilantly, his hand pressing on the codec understander. "Call me Xinyue." The woman's voice was cold, but she smiled. I am a member of the underground organization. Xinyue asked me to support you. It seems that you really need some help. Speaking of which, she threw a small box. Yaokun caught it and saw that it was a set of advanced guest tools, including a hidden module and several data interferers, which could effectively block the tracking signals of the internet. This can make you disappear from the Skynet's video at a time, but don't be too excited too early. Xinyue said, her eyes swept over the server. The files you got are just the tip of the sacred iceberg. Minghua's real plan is even more crazy than you think. Minghua. Yaokun browed and the name appeared in his brain, the person behind the scenes of the Tianwang group, the real master of the digital immortality plan. Yes, remember this name. Xinyue sneered, he is your biggest enemy. Well, I have to leave, these dogs will recover soon. The hidden module has only 3 hours of effect, so you can get out of this ghost place in a tight time. Before she finished speaking, her figure had disappeared into the darkness, as if it had never appeared. Yaokun looked down at the tools in his hand, and a complex feeling surged in his heart. He knew that the road was getting more and more dangerous, but at the same time, he felt that he was approaching the truth. Yaokun, don't be stunned, go. Xinyue urged and helped him to install the hidden module. The two quickly left the data center, and the roaring sound of the electronics behind them continued to move away, but the pressure in the air did not diminish at all. In the night, the neon lights of the neon city are still flashing, like countless cold eyes overlooking this city covered by data and silences. Yaokun held the decoder tightly and recalled the content in the file in his brain. Human consciousness was regarded as energy, and this crazy plan made him feel chilled. Xinyue, can we stop this? Yaokun asked in a low voice, with a little confusion in his voice. Xinyue was silent for a moment and patted his shoulder. I don't know, but at least, we are not the same person now. You have me, Xinyue, and even that Xinyue. Together, we can always have something to do. Yaokun clicked his head and his eyes calmed down again. He knew that the road ahead would be harder, but no matter what, he would find his father and reveal the entire truth of digital eternal life. Far away, the shadow of the deserted data center was hidden in the night, like a silent warning. The figures of Yaokun and Xinyue gradually disappeared into the mystery of the neon city, and what greeted them would be deeper slander and challenge. The number of words in this chapter, about 3,800 words. In the lower area of Neon City, a deserted underground parking lot became a temporary hiding spot for Yaokun and Xinyue. The air was filled with the burnt smell of motor oil and waste data, and the dim and urgent lighting lights illuminated several broken floating car dead. Yaokun sat on a ring-like iron plate, holding a quantum decoder in his hand, and the green code flow on the screen was beating like a heartbeat. His eyes were a little hollow, and he repeatedly recalled the file downloaded from the Center for Disposal Data. Human consciousness was regarded as energy, and this crazy truth was like a knife, penetrated hard into his heart. Xinyue leaned against a pillar beside him, took off the enhancing lens, rubbed his eyebrows, and said in a low voice, Yaokun, you've been staring at that file for almost a day, so you'll have to rest. We have to think about what to do next. Rest? Yaokun smiled bitterly and slammed his head. My father's name is in the experiment list. His consciousness may still be trapped in a certain database, and it is used as a battery for power supply. How can I rest? Xinyue called out his mouth, trying to say something comforting, but in the end he just sighed. He knew that all Yaokun's efforts over the past 3 years were to find the whereabouts of his father, and this truth was too cool for him. At this moment, a slight wave suddenly appeared in the air, and a holographic projection slowly appeared. It was Xinyue. She was still wearing that white virtual dress, and she was solemn in her gentle smile. Her appearance made the atmosphere of the parking lot instantly tighten. Yaokun, Xinyue, I received Xinyue's report. Xinyue's voice was soft and clear. The files you got in the scrap data center proved our rebellious guess. The Project Eternal of the Skynet Group is not only a guise of digital immortality, but also a tool to clearly govern the Neon City. They transform human consciousness into energy and drive the entire city's transportation system, and those uploaded have no idea that they have become slaves. Yaokun clenched his fist tightly and asked in a low voice, "Do you know the whereabouts of my father? Is his consciousness still there?" Xinyue was silent for a moment, her eyes chaotic. "I can't tell, but according to our information, the core server of Tianwang contains all the uploaded databases of consciousness, including those experiments. If you want to find the answer, you must dive there." "Core server?" Qingzai interrupted, "That place is the lifeblood of the internet. The defense system is 100 times stronger than the abandoned data center. Even digital dogs are just a piece of cake. How can we get in?" Xian Qing smiled slightly, and a virtual map appeared on the projection, marking a tower building located in the center of Neon City, the headquarters of Tianwang. "I have internal circuit diagrams and some low-level access rights to help you go over external defense. But the firewall and guardian programs of the core server can only be cracked by Yaokun's quantum decoding capabilities." Yaokun stared at the map, his eyes gradually calmed down. "Okay, I'll go. But the goal of this action is not just to find my dad. I want to destroy the entire system and liberate those imprisoned ideas. Count me." Qingzai patted Yaokun's shoulder and grinned, "I can't let you die alone. Besides, my data may save your life." Xinyue pointed out and continued, "Xinyue will provide you with technical support. She has prepared a set of advanced obscurity modules and data interferers to allow you to avoid the monitoring network of Tianwang in a short time. But remember that the core server is a clear trump card, and he is likely to sit in the town. You must be mentally prepared, and this battle will not be easy. Minghua." Yaokun read the name in a low voice, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He knew that this was the mastermind behind the scenes of Tianwang and the real idea of the digital immortality plan. If he doesn't defeat him, all efforts will be a waste. "When should we start?" Qingzai asked, with a hint of anxiety in his language. "Tonight." Xinyue's voice was unquestionable. "Tianwang's system will reset data every 72 hours, and tonight is the best window. You have 12 hours of movement, and beyond this time limit, the system will automatically lock all external access." Yaokun and Qingzai looked at each other and pointed at the same time. They know that this may be the only opportunity and the most dangerous action. After a few hours, the Neon City under the night husk became even more stressful. The tall tower at the headquarters of the Skynet stands in the center of the city, like a black blade piercing the sky. The holographic marker on the top of the tower emits cold blue light, overlooking the entire city. Yaokun and Qingzai were lying at the sewer outlet around the tower, and were equipped with a hidden module provided by Xinyue. The data interferer emitted low-frequency waves, blocking the scanning of nearby monitoring networks. "Xinyue, have you confirmed the circuit diagram?" Yaokun said to the headphones in a low voice, and at the same time checking the status of the quantum decoders. "Acknowledge it's okay." Xinyue's cold voice came from the headphones. "After entering the sewer, go along the B17 channel and you will reach the logistical entrance of the tower. The access rights provided by Xinyue can help you open the first door, but the defense behind depends on you. I will monitor the data flow externally and warn you at any time." Received. Yaokun closed the communication and said to Qingzai, "Are you ready?" Qingzai pushed the glass and grinned, "You can die anytime, go." The two of them walked along the sewer, and the smell of smelly air and dripping sounds made people suffocate. After more than 10 minutes of trek, they finally arrived at the logistics entrance. Yaokun quickly connected to the decoder, entered the access code provided by Xinyue, and the door was released and opened slowly. Behind the door is an empty metal corridor with no one person, with data lines and monitoring probes embedded in the walls on both sides, but the effect of the hidden module has not been discovered at the moment. The first line of defense passes through, and then the virtual palace. Yaokun said in a low voice, carrying Qingzai, and continued to go deeper. The so-called virtual mystery is a defense mechanism inside the Skynet Tower, a virtual space composed of data flow. Those entering must pass through a series of digital traps and deciphers to reach the next level. Yaokun wore a strengthening helmet and instantly switched to a virtual environment. The corridor in front of me turned into an endless ocean of numbers, with countless code fragments swimming like fish clusters, hiding deadly data bombs. "Chingza, keep an eye on my back," Yaokun said in a low voice, dancing on the decoder, and began to analyze the structure of the virtual space. His quantum decoding ability was extremely revelate at this moment, and the code flow was like a wire controlled by him, quickly forming a network, capturing the hidden position of the data bomb. "The data flow is abnormal in the northeast direction," Chingze suddenly shouted, and the data awareness made him sense the danger several seconds in advance. A bomb made of red codes emerged from the virtual ocean and came straight to Yaokun. Yaokun reacted very quickly adjusting the decoder to release a data barrier, and the bomb exploded in front of the barrier, turning into a pile of random fragments. He wiped his virtual sweat and said in a low voice, "Thank you, I almost got blown into data slag." "Don't waste your time, keep going," Chingza urged, but his eyes became more and more intense. "My prediction tells me that the danger of this mystery is not yet at the top." Sure enough, as they penetrated into the virtual mystery, the trap became more and more complicated. Yaokun had to increase the computing power of the decoders again and again, and even activated the quantum overload mode again to crack a layer of virtual wall block. His fingers were almost cramped, and the core temperature of the decoder was close to the limit, but for each layer he cracked, his understanding of quantum decoding became deeper, and his speed and accuracy were increasing. "The last layer," Yaokun growled, and the decoder burst out with a strong data-slamming wave. The virtual ocean collapsed in an instant, and the actual metal corridor appeared in front of them again. In front is a huge black and golden door, with complex traces scattering a sense of pressure. "Core server," Yaokun gasped, and a fire ignited in his eyes. He knew that the answer was right behind the door. "Yaokun, be careful, the flow of data here gives me a very bad premonition," Chingze said in a low voice. The ability of data prediction made him feel a strong uneasy. Yaokun clicked the head and began to crack the firewall of the door. This time the defense system is stronger than ever, with data flowing like a violent flood that almost swallowed the decoders. But Yaokun did not regress. He focused all his attention on the code. He flashed countless algorithms and vulnerabilities in his brain. The ability to decode quantum reached a new level at this moment. He could even see the weaknesses of the data flow, like a break in the chessboard. With a crisp drop sound, the black and golden door opened slowly. Behind the door is a huge circular space, with a huge core composed of a stream of blue data floating in the center, surrounded by countless light spots, each representing a captivity. Yaokun's eyes swept over the lights, and his heart beats faster and faster. He could feel that his father's consciousness was in it. "Yaokun, find the database interface," Chingze urged in a low voice, while vigilantly watching around. Yaokun quickly connects to the decoders and starts searching for the idea database. His fingers danced on the virtual keyboard, and a name and number popped up on the screen. Finally, a familiar name came into view: Yao Mingyi. He clicked on the file and a missing visual image appeared on the screen. It was a vague image of a middle-aged man. Although his face was unclear, Yaokun realized at a glance that it was his father. "Dad." Yaokun's voice was choked, and a slight light flashed in his eyes. But he quickly suppressed the mood and began to download the ideology data, trying to free the father's shadow from the system. At this moment, a low smile suddenly echoed in the core space, as if it was coming from the depths of the earth. A huge virtual incarnation appeared peacefully, a middle-aged man in a long black robe, with a cold face and a cold blue light in his eyes. He is Mingyu, the mastermind behind the Tianwang Group, and the creator of the digital immortality plan. "Yaokun, I didn't expect you to get to this point." Mingyu's voice was low and majestic, with a slight mockery. "Your father's consciousness is indeed here, but do you think that by slandering you two little kids, can you sway my empire?" Yaokun gritted his teeth and said coldly, "Ming, your plan has been exposed. Don't you feel disgusted by treating human consciousness as energy?" "Disgusting?" Minghui sneered, "Virtual incarnation approaching, this is evolution, Yaokun. The consciousness of ordinary people is worthless. only by becoming energy can we make contributions to the prosperity of the Neon City. Your father is willing to join the experiment, and his sacrifice is for a greater goal. Nonsense. Yaokun roared. The decoder activated again, and tried to directly attack Minghua's virtual incarnation. But Mingyu just let out a light hand, and a data barrier blocked Yaokun's attack. Then he released a data wave with his backhand, causing Yaokun and Chengzhe to retreat at the same time. Yaokun, retreat! Chengzhe shouted, knowing that at this moment, he had touched, and a fatal picture flashed through his brain. Minghu's next shot will directly destroy Yaokun's implanted chip. He rushed past without hesitation, pressed his body in front of Yaokun, and endured Minghui's second attack. Chengzhe! Yaokun shouted, holding down Chengzhe, only seeing his eyes shattered and a silk of blood spilled out of the corners of his mouth. Although this is a virtual space attack, implanting the chip is enough to cause damage to the actual brain. Don't worry about me, continue to crack. Chengzhe said, gritting his teeth, his voice weak but determined. My prediction tells me that he has a stronger attack. We have no time. Yaokun's eyes flashed with pain, but it quickly turned into a desperate situation. He quickly adjusted the decoder mode, activated the extreme limit state of quantum overload, and tried to crack the clear defense and consciousness database chains at the same time. His brain was almost flooded by the data flow, but with his thoughts about his father, he forced himself to hold on to the pressure, his fingers dancing on the virtual keyboard. The code flow was like a violent storm, colliding fiercely with the obvious data barrier. Do you think you can win? Minghui sneered, and his virtual incarnation burst out with a strong blue light, and the data waves came one after another, trying to destroy Yaokun's will. But Yaokun did not regress. His quantum decoding ability broke through the limit at this moment, and a brand new algorithm suddenly flashed through his brain: quantum resonance. He quickly adjusted the output frequency of the decoders, and the data current and the bright barrier produce a resonant effect. The barrier instantly disintegrates, revealing the core of the bright virtual incarnation. Go to die! Yaokun growled, released the last wave of attack, and directly hit Minghua's core. The virtual incarnation let out a painful roar, and the body began to disintegrate and turned into uncounted fragments. Yaokun, this is just the beginning. Minghui's voice gradually disappeared as he collapsed, but the cold language made Yaokun feel chill. As the clear virtual incarnation disappeared, the chains of the conscious database began to collapse, and countless light spots rose slowly, like a liberated soul. Yaokun quickly downloaded his father's ideology. Although it was just a missing data, a faint sound came from the silence. Yaokun, I'm very proud. Yaokun had a red eye socket, held the decoder tightly, and said in a low voice, Dad, I will let you be free. Yaokun, we have to leave. Chengzhe stood up hard, his face turned pale. The system is about to be reset, and the core server's defense will be restarted. Yaokun clicked a little, held Chengzhe and quickly withdrew. Behind me, the database is getting more and more light, like countless imprisoned souls in the whisper, thanking them for their liberation. But Yaokun knew that this was just a temporary victory. Minghu's true body is still somewhere, and the trance of digital immortality is never over. The two of them fled out of the tower, and the effect of the hidden module was about to be consumed, and the pressure of the monitoring network approached again. In the night, the neon lights of the Neon City are still flashing, like countless cold eyes, observing this unfinished battle. Yaokun looked down at the father's consciousness in the decoder, his eyes fixed and complicated. He knew that the road ahead would be even more dangerous, but he would not stop, no matter what. Far away, the blue light at the headquarters of the Skynet is still dazzling, like a silent pick. And the greater storm is quietly curling. The number of words in this chapter, about 3,800 words. The night in Neon City is still deep, with countless holographic advertising and virtual projections intersecting high altitudes, like a monitoring network that never quits, covering the entire city in the cold blue-purple light. The impact of the tower at the headquarters of the Skynet is still invisible. Although Yaokun and Chengzhe just escaped from the core server, they know that the battle is not over. Although Minghui's virtual incarnation was beaten, his true body, the main brain behind the scenes of the Tianhuang group, is still hidden somewhere, controlling the entire secret of digital eternal life. Yaokun and Cheng Zhe hid in a deserted warehouse in the lower area. Under the dim light, Yaokun looked down at the father's consciousness on the quantum decoder. The faint sound Yaokun, "I'm very proud," was repeatedly rumbling in his brain, making his heart seem to be grabbed by something. He knew that this shadow was just a fragment of data, and the true father's consciousness was still trapped in a deeper system, and was ruthlessly exploited as energy. "Yaokun, we can't stop." Cheng Zhe sat aside, his face still pale. The data impact he had just endured in the core server made his implanted chip overload, but he still cheered up. "I won't let us go this way. After the system is reset, he will definitely launch a more violent response." "I know." Yaokun clamped his fist tightly, his voice was low and firm. "I want to find Ming Hui's true body and destroy his control system in full. It's not just for my father, but also for all the imprisoned consciousness." At this moment, a familiar wave appeared in the air, and the warm holographic projection slowly appeared. Her long white dress looked particularly dazzling in the dim warehouse, but her expression was heavier than before, and the projection edges were even a little blurry, like a data flow was a little unstable. "Yaokun, Chengze, I received the latest news." Xinyue's voice brought urgency. The true body of Minghui is hidden in the top layer of the headquarters of the Tianhuang, an independent system called Cores of the Sky. There is the ultimate control center of the digital immortality plan. All the consciousnesses, the roots of the warehouse, are there. As long as you destroy the core of the sky, you can completely liberate all consciousness, but the defense system there is the strongest in the entire Neon City, and even has a self-destructive mechanism. Once exposed, the entire data network will collapse, including all uploaded consciousnesses. Yaokun asked in a deep voice, "You said, if we fail, not only will we not be able to save people, but we will also kill everyone?" Xinyue pointed his head and his eyes were complicated. "Yes. But this is the only chance. Mingxiu is reorganizing his virtual avatar and preparing to launch a general attack against the resistance. If we don't attack first, Neon City will forever be his data empire." Cheng Zhe smiled bitterly and pushed the enhanced real eyeglasses that broke the snatch. "It sounds like a self-destruction. However, I guess you won't give up, right?" Yaokun glanced at him and grinned. "Aren't you the same? Wind, who has let me get along with you for so long." Cheng Zhe praised his shoulders and then looked at Xinyue. "Say, what plan do you have?" With a deep impression, a detailed structure of the top layer of the internet headquarters appeared on the projection, marking out data channels and defense points. "I can provide a secret data channel to the core of the Sky Dome. This is the back door I secretly saved as a virtual idol, and can traverse most of the monitoring networks. But the end of the channel has an ultimate firewall that can only be cracked by Yaokun's quantum decoding capabilities. In addition, I will connect my core code to the system to help you transfer the database to ensure that those ideas will not be erased when destroying the Skydome core." "Add to the core code?" Yaokun was stunned, immediately realized something, and said with a brow, "That's very dangerous to you, right? If the system collapses, your data may also." "It's okay." Xinyue cut him off, smiling softly and calmly. "I am a virtual idol, and existence itself is to help people. If these ideas can be liberated, my data loss is worth it." Yaokun was silent for a moment, and finally got a little bit, "Okay, let's end all this together." After a few hours, the night became more and the central area of Neon City was covered by a sudden data storm. The blue light on the tower at the headquarters of the Skynet became even more dazzling, like a volcano that was about to explode, with no data flow intersecting at high altitude, indicating the arrival of a battle. Yaokun and Chengze used the high-level hidden module provided by Xinyue to penetrate the entrance of the data passage guided by Xinyue, a waste maintenance port on the side wing of the tower. "Xinyue, what's the situation with external monitoring?" Yaokun asked the headphones in a low voice. His fingers had begun to operate on the quantum decoder, trying to map the initial firewall of the access channel. "It's stable at a while. Xinyue's cold voice came from the headphones. I've blacked the monitoring network around me, but it can only last for an hour. You're moving quickly, and the digital dogs on the Skynet have already started patrolling. Received. Yaokun closed the message and said to Chingze, "Are you ready? This channel may be more dangerous than the virtual mistress." Chingze pushed the glass and grinned, "You can die anytime, go." The two quickly dived into the data channel. Inside the channel was a virtual space composed of a blue data stream, like an endless deep sea, with countless code fragments floating around, hiding a fatal trap. Xinyue's projection appears beside them, guiding the way forward. "Follow me and avoid those red data streams, which are digital bombs set up in a brightly set way." Yaokun points the head, and the quantum decoder works with all his strength, scanning the surrounding data structures, and trying to predict the location of the trap. After Chingze followed closely, the ability of data prediction allowed him to sense danger several seconds in advance, and several times helped Yaokun avoid the fatal data impact wave. "Turn left, there is a hidden spot in front of you." Chingze suddenly whispered, and knew that he was touching, and a red warning signal flashed through his brain. Yaokun immediately adjusted the direction and indeed avoided a data explosion from the side. The explosion caused a wave of waves in the virtual space. "Thank you." Yaokun wiped his sweat and continued dancing with his fingers, breaking the layered defense in the passage. As they went deeper, the traps became increasingly dense, and Yaokun had to start the quantum overload mode again to break through a layer of data wall. His brain was almost flooded by data currents, but with every cracking, his mastery of quantum decoding is more sophisticated, and his speed and precision are improved. Finally, after a violent data wave, they reached the end of the channel, a huge door composed of a black data flowing, with complex runes flowing on the door, scattering a sense of pressure. Xinyue's projection stopped and said in a low voice, "This is the ultimate firewall, and behind it is the core of the sky. Yaokun, it's up to you." Yaokun clicked his head, took a deep breath, connected it to the quantum decoder, and began to crack the firewall. His fingers danced on the virtual keyboard, and the code flowed like a flood, colliding violently with the data flow in the firewall, emitting air sparks. The firewall's reaction was unusually fierce, and data waves tried to destroy his implanted chip, but Yaokun bit his teeth and forced the pressure to hang on. "Yaokun, the data flow on the right side is abnormal." Chingze suddenly shouted, and the data was expected to touch again. Yaokun quickly adjusted the output frequency of the decoder, released a data barrier, barely blocking a fatal attack. "Give me another 30 seconds. Yaokun roared, and suddenly flashed a brand new algorithm in his brain, the advanced application of quantum resonance. He quickly adjusted the calculation mode of the decoder, and the data current in the firewall had a resonant effect. The runes on the giant door began to disintegrate, and finally the firewall collapsed in a crisp drop sound. The giant door opened slowly, revealing the true appearance of the core of the sky, a huge space composed of countless blue light spots. There is a black data core floating in the center, and there are countless conscious light spots around it. Each light represents a prisoned soul. Yaokun's eyes swept over those lights, his heartbeats accelerating, and he could feel his father's consciousness. But before he could move, a low and cold voice came from the depths of the space. "Yaokun, you are indeed here." A huge virtual incarnation appears to be a clear sign. His black robe swayed in the virtual space, with cold blue light flashing in his eyes, and his energy was several times stronger than the virtual avatar I had encountered in the core server before. Obviously, this is a clear and ultimate form, which is directly connected to the core of the sky, controlling the entire digital immortal system. "Do you think that if you destroy my clone, you can sway my empire?" Minghui sneered, and his virtual incarnation approached slowly. "The core of the sky is my heart. As long as it exists, the city of Neon will always be mine. You are just a slut. The tick will bite people." Yaokun said coldly. The quantum decoder operated with all his might, trying to directly attack the core of the sky. But Minghui just let out a light hand, and a data barrier blocked Yaokun's attack. Then he released a data wave with his backhand, causing Yaokun and Chingze to retreat at the same time. "Yaokun, Retreat! Xinyue shouted, and as he knew it was discovered, he flashed a fatal picture in his brain, Ming, whose next shot will directly destroy their implanted chips. He rushed Yaokun without hesitation, endured the storm, and blood spilled out of the corners of his mouth again. Xinyue! Yaokun shouted, holding down Xinyue, with a flash of pain in his eyes. Don't worry about me, attack the core. Xinyue gritted his teeth, his voice weak but determined. My prediction tells me that he is starting the self-destruction mechanism. You only have 1 minute. Yaokun clicked the head and turned to look at Xinyue. I need time to help me stabilize the system. Xinyue was unhesitant, and her projection body began to blur, and her voice was determined. I will connect to the core code to help you calmly understand the transmission of the database. Yaokun, end all this. As her voice fell, Xinyue's projection was almost completely transparent, and countless numbers separated from her and merged into the conscious light spots around the core of the sky. Those light spots begin to stabilize, and the flow of data is no longer chaotic, as if protected by invisible forces. But Yaokun knew that this meant that Xinyue was sacrificing her existence. Xinyue. Yaokun murmured softly, and immediately bit his teeth and focused all his attention on the core of the sky. He activated the limiting mode of the quantum decoders, and even destroyed the core module to release the most powerful data impact waves. His brain was almost torn apart by data, but he held the pressure on his father and all the imprisoned consciousness. Minghua's virtual incarnation roared and tried to reverse the picture, but Yaokun used quantum resonance again, and the data current in Minghua's barrier produced a dramatic resonance, and the barrier instantly disintegrated, revealing the true body of the core of the sky. Yaokun growled, released the last wave of attack, and directly hit the core. Yaokun, you will regret it. Minghua's voice gradually disappeared as it collapsed, and a loud noise came from the core of the sky. The black data core began to collapse, and countless conscious lights rose slowly, like a liberated soul, emitting a warm light in the virtual space. Xinyue, the system is going to be destroyed. Yaokun shouted, helping Xinyue up and preparing to evacuate. But at this moment, Xinyue's data was discovered again, and a red warning signal flashed through his brain. Wait, there's still a trap. Xinyue gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, there is a hidden data stream in the self-destruction mechanism that will destroy all the conscious data databases before the collapse. Destroy that node in the southeast direction. Yaokun quickly turned southeast, and the quantum decoders almost loaded, but he still cracked the last hidden point successfully. As the date collapses, the data flow of the self-destructive mechanism finally stops, and the awareness point is no longer threatened and all are safely transmitted to the external database. It's done. Yaokun gasped, and the decoder finally collapsed due to overloading, and the screen turned into darkness. But he didn't care, but quickly searched the ideology database to find the complete ideology data of his father. At that moment, a clear image of a middle-aged man appeared in the virtual space. Although it was just a few shadows, Yaokun could feel his father's gaze. Yaokun, you did. Yao Ming's voice was faint and warm. I have always believed in you. Let go of the past and protect the future. Dad. Yaokun's eyes roared and the water slid over his face. He knew that this was the final farewell, and that the father's consciousness data would soon dissipate with the other souls and truly gain freedom. But at this moment, he finally got the inner salvation. He not only found his father, but also completed his salvation. The collapse of the core of the sky made the entire Tianwang headquarters start to shake, and the virtual space gradually collapsed. Yaokun held Xinyue and quickly withdrew. The light of consciousness behind him turned into countless light particles, scattered like stars in the night sky of the Neon City. Xinyue's projection has completely disappeared, but her voice finally echoed in Yaokun's brain. Yaokun, thank you. A few hours later, Yaokun and Xinyue stood at a high point in the lower area, looking at the Neon City. The tower at the headquarters of the Skynet has lost its blue light and turned into a dead body. Most of the virtual idol projections over the city also disappeared, and the pressure on the monitoring network seemed to have been much weaker. Numerous citizens walked out of the street and looked up at the light particles in the night sky, as if they felt a long-lasting freedom. We really did. Xinyue said in a low voice, with a burst of fatigue and relief in his voice. The clear slander is broken, and those ideas are finally free. Yes, but this is just the beginning. Yaokun looked down at the destruction decoder in his hand, his eyes calm. There are too many problems in Neon City, and the battle between the technological giant and underground force will not stop. I will continue to protect this place, not only for my dad, but also for all those who have been forced. Xinyue smiled and patted his shoulder. Then I have to follow you so that you won't die another one. Yaokun also smiled and his eyes turned far away. In the night, the light of the Neon City is still flashing, but this time, it is no longer a cold monitoring, but a warm hope. He knew that Xinyue's life, his father's goodbye, and Xinyue's company all made him grow into a true guardian. As the wind blows, the light particles in the night sky gradually disappear, like a soundless blessing. The Neon City welcomed a short peace, and Yaokun's journey became part of this city, forever engraved in every soul that had been pierced. The number of words in this chapter, about 3,750 words.